I talk to product managers every week and find that there are different roles that product managers have. I recently tweeted a remark from another person in the product management space that says there are so many product managers who are called product managers but haven't really been trained in what product management is. And we're going to look at that today. In so many ways, the role of product management is to figure out how to eat the elephant. And you know the old joke, it's one bite at a time. And that was kind of what caused us to call the company Under 10. The goal is to not try to do 100 things, but try to do under 10 things. Let's focus on just a few critical elements. The thing that keeps executives up at night are these three things. How do we sell more of what we've built? Can we build what we've planned? And have we planned the right products? And often we see these things as three different departments. You know, how does sales do more of what they're supposed to do? And how does development do more of what they're supposed to do? And how do, say, executives plan the right products? And I'm going to show you how all three of these can be directly influenced by product management. So what would you say you do here? This is a screen grab from a really popular movie that is really quite old now, but anyway, it's from Office Space, and if you don't mind the swearing, it's a tremendously funny movie. But it is really hard to explain to your parents or to your colleagues what product management is all about, and sometimes it seems like what we're really talking about is playing asteroids. We're shooting down things that are coming at us all the time, attacked by not just asteroids, but by little spaceships coming through. And perhaps that's why 47% of our time is spent in unplanned activity. It seems like a fair amount of time is spent in janitorial duties, cleaning up after others, firefighting, putting out fires that were maybe caused by other people. And the question I think we have is, do we want to be putting out fires or do we want to be putting out products? And so a very simple way of thinking of product management is the product management is the CEO of the product. You've probably heard that reference a number of times. And it's one that I don't really like that much. I find so often product managers say things like, well, you know, I'm responsible for a bunch of stuff, but I don't have the authority to do it. And I'm going to show you a little bit where authority comes from today. A metaphor I prefer is the metaphor of the orchestra director. When you've got a large group of people, you need somebody making sure they're all working together. The goal is to get us all working to the same objectives. And it's not like if the trumpets don't have enough trumpet players for all the parts, the orchestra director doesn't go over and play trumpet. He will say, you know, hey, the trumpets are too loud and the clarinets are too quiet. The, you know, violins are rushing and the trombones are falling behind. And I like this idea of somebody making sure we're all working to the same sheet of music with the same tempo and the same key. But perhaps the biggest difficulty of all is that titles are just an absolute mess. What one company calls a product manager, another company calls a product marketing manager. In some organizations, we have product owners. In some organizations, we have business analysts. Sometimes we say, well, we used to have product managers and now we have product owners. And I'm not sure that, as we'll see later, those aren't necessarily the same thing. What are some of the things that you're doing that you should not be? What are some things that you should be doing, whether you are or not? And just take 1 minute to write down some of those items, because we're going to use that in the next section. So we've written down a few things, and I want to show you how to characterize those things with a new tool. In a well-run organization, each role has a single orientation. They either support customers, that is individual customers, or they support the market, that is the entire market full of customers. And here's how you be a consultant. First, you be from out of town. Second of all, you quote Peter Drucker. And then third, you have a 4-square grid. So let's go straight to that. If you draw a 4-square grid, leveraging what Peter just said, we've got some of the things that we do are about the market. and some of the things that we do are about individual customers. Furthermore, in product management and product marketing, some of the things that we do are about the future, and some of the things we do are about now, the products that we have now. So for example, some of the things you might have written down, we have responsibility for a product roadmap, which is primarily targeted to a market full of buyers and focused on the future set of deliverables. Another example, salespeople often deal with requests for proposals or invitation to tender. They're long documents that say, does your product do this and this and this and this and this? And it's generally about the product you have now, not the product you'll have in the future. Dealing with a request for proposal is a customer-specific item focused on the market of now. And one more example. You might say, as we introduce a new product, anticipating those RFPs, we might ought to write some frequently asked questions. So take a moment now to think about those activities that you wrote down and place them in these categories. Some of the things that we do are about the market, some are the customer, some are about the future, some are about the now. Where would you put the activities that you wrote down and the artifacts that you wrote down in your little 4-square grid here? And it'll probably look something like this. You've got a number of activities in a number of areas. Some of the things we do are about the product that is currently available, and some of the things we do are about future capabilities down the road. You may find as you've done all this that you see that you've got a bunch of stuff like writing requirements and the roadmap and researching the market that's going to drive future deliverables for the market. Some of the things, though, that we do are really focused on the now, the product we have now, and for single customers. And the reason I call this out is each of these departments is primarily focused on one of these quadrants. So our development and engineering team is building future deliverables for the market. And some of your organizations, actually, you have a services team, like professional services team, that is developing new solutions for future delivery, but for a single customer. On the bottom row, we have marketing is presumably communicating what we have now to the market, while sales is communicating what we have now to single customers. What I find is product management tends to be in the middle of all of this. We're working with all 4 departments. And sadly, I think in many cases, we are supporting the objectives of those departments. And so if you looked at your typical set of activities and consider where your time is going, some of the teams that I work with have the majority of their time spent in quadrant 1, needs of the market for delivery in the future. And then quadrant 2 is the needs of the market for what we have now. And then we have quadrant 3 is that sales role, which is communicating about what we have now to a single customer. And then, as I called out, in services, developing or defining future deliverables for a single customer. And so the question is that what product management is? Is it providing support to those other 4 departments? Or is there another role here? Let's break this chart into 3 parts. Services and sales is really primarily about execution. Development and marketing is primarily focused on solutioning. Development says, gosh, we've encountered a requirement. We need to develop a solution to that requirement, and we're going to deliver it to the market. Marketing says, there's a requirement for us to generate more leads. The way we're going to do that is with a solution called a campaign. Who's understanding the problem? Who's the expert on the problem? Product management is about finding problems in the market and then communicating what we've learned to the other departments, as well as getting feedback from the other departments. That product management says we've seen a problem. For instance, we've been doing customer discovery. We've gone out and we visited a customer. We heard a need or a problem or an issue that they have. And we sit down with development and say, let's talk through this problem. And hey, development, can you recommend some solutions? Similarly, product management or product marketing typically does what's called win-loss analysis, which is interviewing people who have given us their business or interviewing people who did not give us their business, and interviewing enough of them that we start seeing patterns in wins and losses. As a result of our win-loss analysis, it's likely we'll sit down with marketing and say, we've been seeing a problem in the market. How should we solve it? You know, the sales team is struggling to communicate some of our architectural decisions. Marketing says, oh, you know what? We really ought to do a video of our CTO talking about our infrastructure and our technology choices. Give them the tools they need to communicate something that they're struggling to communicate. Through win-loss analysis, we might see that we're constantly being asked in RFPs about some capability, and that sales is not communicating that solution very well. And that's where we start realizing we need to drive frequently asked questions. So let's take it one more step. As I think of titles, instead of talking about product management as like one thing, it's actually three things. All right, it's defining strategies for the future, it's doing planning for what's coming next, and it's driving growth for what we have now. And so as you ponder on titles, if you're in product marketing, for instance, a product marketing manager is often the title we use for product growth, the green box here. With product growth, our focus is on how do we get more people to adopt what we have, whether it's an offering, a solution, or a product. With product planning, it's what are we going to build next? So we have a product in the market, we're going to build version 2. Or we don't have a product in the market, we're building our series of MVPs. We are working both with marketing as well as development, in that we're helping them articulate solutions to how we're going to promote the product as well as how we're going to build the product. Product strategy is beyond the next release or beyond the next couple of releases. What products are we going to build? One of the tools that I use in one of my other workshops is around product strategy, because we've got so many things we could be doing. Which one should we be focused on? And yet we seem to use one title to represent all three phases of this planning, this articulation of problems. So instead of calling it, product management, I think there's a lot to be said for calling it product strategy, product planning, product growth. If you prefer, call it solutions or offering. But it's thinking about products from a strategic standpoint, from a near-term planning standpoint, as well as a growth standpoint, given what we have now. And to come back to win-loss analysis, I typically find sales doing win-loss reporting because it's required in Salesforce. And what they say in win-loss is, we lost the deal because the price is too high and the product sucks, or we won the deal because of superior salesmanship. But as we look at the sales activity in the aggregate, we start seeing not, this sales guy's bad and this sales guy's good. We start seeing there's a consistent pattern here where the demo didn't do the job, or where there was something that mechanically happened wrong in the buyer's journey. As we identify these problems in our product growth role, again, we sit down with marketing and say, what are some campaigns that we can do, or what are some methods we can leverage to solve this sales problem that we're seeing? The reason I like this way of thinking is it helps you, I think, identify whether what you're doing is moving the product forward, or if you're in fact doing the work of others. One of the questions that I get a lot from executive teams is, how many product managers should I have? One answer is you need one product manager for every 10 developers, but that's only for the product planning bit. The real question is, how much assistance does development need? How much assistance does marketing need? How much assistance does sales need? One thing I find fairly consistently, if you have a complex product, the sales team needs technical support on most of their sales calls. And so they rely on product management in many cases to provide that, or they rely on product marketing to provide them deal level support. But that actually should be done by a different role, the sales engineer. The sales engineer title is another one of those titles that has lots of different flavors. There's application engineer and field field consultant. But if you need a technical resource on every sales call, then the salespeople, the sales department should provide that resource in some version of sales engineering. If marketing needs a tremendous amount of product knowledge as part of their campaigns, as part of their go-to-market planning, then a lot of organizations I work with are hiring product marketing people within the marketing department to provide that technical information to the marketing team. If services needs technical resources on every deal they do, then they really should staff up to that. So here's my challenge to you is, how often are you working on understanding and articulating problems in the market versus how often are you supporting these departments shown in gray? I think the real big challenge is we're so busy helping those other departments, and we're not that clear on what product management is supposed to do. And here's why. For many organizations, we hire product management and then allow these other departments to define what product management is. If you go to a sales guy, what should a product manager do? You know, I need you to answer RFPs. I need you to go on sales calls. I need you to do a demo for a customer. If I go to marketing and say, hey, we're going to bring in product management. What do you need from product management? They often say, well, you know, we're in marketing, we're focused on campaigns, we don't know the product, so we're going to rely on product management to provide text for our website. They're going to need to write blogs. They're going to have to give us screenshots of product. If we go to development, they'll say, I need somebody sitting next to me answering my questions in real time about the persona and their problems, or what did you mean by this story? Can you break this story down into tasks? And frankly, the most common thing I see, what they're actually doing is development management. They're assigning tasks to individuals. And so this idea of specialized roles around these three phases of problem definition, the product owner would be doing the orange stuff, the product planning. Typically, we see product marketing manager doing the product growth activities. And we see a product manager or a portfolio manager doing product strategy. So these are the specialized roles of product management. Titles are a mess. I think of all of this as product management, with these as specialized roles within product management. And if you're at a small company, product strategy has probably already been done by your CEO or your CTO, and their focus for you would be to focus on the product planning, on doing what's next, taking my idea for the future and turning it into development and marketing deliverables. If you're a large company, you may have people in all three of these roles. One thing I have also seen is, if you're in an agile world, if the product owners are so busy that they can't be in the market, then product marketing says, well, we'll do it. The ideal way of organizing this would be to have these three specialties within the same department in what I call a product management triad. Consider for a moment the way they must organize things at Microsoft. So they've got this enormous product called Microsoft Office. And you would assume that they've got a VP of product strategy or a VP of product who's determining the strategy for Office. They would also have multiple people in a product planning role focused on Word and Excel and PowerPoint, primarily working with development, but with some aspects working with marketing as well. And then you would have product marketing managers who were driving the marketing campaigns, focusing on the portfolio. And if those three people or three groups are working together, then their goals will be aligned. And I think that addresses a really big problem where product marketing may have one set of goals and product planning may have a different set of goals, or the product owner may have a different set of goals. And while organizations never fix problems, they can make them easier. And this idea of the triad of having all three of these specialties in the same working group makes it much easier to stay aligned on what we're trying to accomplish. In some cases, we have product owners doing product planning within development, which means that their objectives are going to be the same objectives as the VP of development or the CTO. We often see product growth being done by product marketing within marketing. That means that the product growth objectives are going to need to align with the marketing objectives. But the marketing objectives may be primarily about supporting sales as opposed to product growth. So that's why I really like the idea of these three specialized roles being in a working team, either dotted line or straight line. Ultimately, when I do it right, there's no sign of it. Disasters just fail to occur. If we have this other orientation for product management, instead of product management being support for marketing and sales and development and services, if we are doing the problem discovery aspects of product management, then we will have planned the right products. We'll be able to build what we've planned because we'll be able to empower the dev team with deep knowledge about market problems and the people who have them. And we'll have the tools we need to sell what we've built because we'll be working closely with marketing to solve go-to-market problems. Instead of going to marketing and saying, hey, I need a press release and a web page and a ROI tool, let's go to marketing with data. We've looked at our win-loss analysis. We've gone on a few sales calls. We have understood the persona and their problem. Help me build tools to support the sales effort collectively so I don't have to support salespeople individually. Our goal is not to support individual customers. Our goal is to support the market full of customers. So not supporting sales, but supporting marketing. Not supporting services, but supporting development. Focusing on the market full of customers and focusing on the problems in those markets. If we can focus on problems, then we can rely on the expertise of development and marketing to solve those problems. And we don't have to be telling them what to build. We tell them, here are the problems, and let's brainstorm, let's collaborate on how to solve those. Ultimately, our goal is to be systematic. We want to turn ideas into successful products systematically. Go back to that workshop that we did where with all the Post-it notes, write down the things that you're doing and place them on the chart. Instead of using the 4-square grid, use this 5-square grid or even this 7-square grid and say, where's my time going? How much time am I doing solutioning for development versus identifying problems in the market? How much time am I spending on sales execution when I should be spending time on understanding the problems that are preventing product growth? How much time am I spending doing the work of other departments? Am I in the center of development, services, marketing, and sales, or am I driving problems? Define your responsibilities aligned with these three roles and ask yourself, how can we support others systematically? Systematically is the key to product management. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. What are the things that you could do that help all salespeople rather than helping a salesperson? What can you do to help all marketing people rather than one marketing person? The ideas that I've talked about today are expanded on extensively in our book, Turn Ideas into Products. And it talks about those three primary roles: the strategy role, the planning role, the growth role, the specific artifacts and activities we need to go through. It talks about how you research the market. And once you've researched the market, how do you articulate stories? How do you collaborate with development and marketing to get the right tools ultimately to the customer by way of the sales channel or through your services organizations? 47% of our time is spent in unplanned activity. We can either be a support organization that allows other departments to define what the job is, or we can be market experts on problems. We're not going to be able to be the technology experts to development or the communications experts to marketing. We can be the experts on problems in the market and the people who have those problems.